Hey everybody, hope you are all doing magnificent, and in this video I'm going to be talking about 13 seconds of infinity, and I'm going to entitle it the Mayan Calendar. 13 seconds of infinity, and I know what you're saying. How can infinity last for 13 seconds? Isn't infinity for like ever? And yes, that's the quick answer. And another quick answer would be time is not how we perceive it. And after I've been doing a lot of studying and trying to figure this out, it becomes more and more clear. And I'm going to try to explain what I mean about 13 seconds on the infinite cycle. As it seems that when the Mayan calendar ends, and I've talked about 13 cycles, and that 13th cycle is done, then it will be a 13-second time frame we will have of feeling whatever infinity happens to be for the 0 point closing of the Mayan calendar. And when that 13-second duration is done, we will re-flip over the Mayan calendar and do another 13 seconds, which will last us until the death of the universe. And that's a long ways away. Anyway, basically what I have done is I've taken the information from this book, from Dr. Mayan Calender, and the formulas in which he uses. The formula that he has for the cellular cycle is that it is 13 times 20 to the power of 7 for the length. If you do that calculation, you will come up with 16.4 billion years. Myself, I don't know if that number 20 is at all correct or not, but it doesn't matter. Whether it's 19 times faster, 20 times faster, or 21 times faster, it's all going to work out relatively the same. And the number I use is 19.69, and I use it for 256 divided by 13. It seems to be more of a universal number. 256 being 2 to the power of 8, 13 being a number which just seems to have a lot of relevance. They've used 13 in here. I've put in 13 different cycles, and after 13 cycles are done, there seems to be 13 seconds of infinity. I don't know what it is about 13, but there is a lot to it. And myself, over the next little while, I'm going to try to figure out more and more about it. But anyway, what I have here is all of the cycles going on to the one that we are going to go to. The universal one says 13 times 20 to the power of -1, the cellular to the power of 7, and the one we're on now is to the power of 0. Basically, what this means to me is, at the start of each cycle, this is how much time is left until that 0 point date. So when we all started it back at the Big Bang Theory, it would have been about 15, 16 billion years. And the mammalian cycle around 800 million years until that point. So when we take the current cycle that we are on now, we're currently on the galactic cycle, we take 13 times 20 to the power of 0. When you do that, you're going to come up with the number of 12.8 years. So that's how long that cycle would be until the completion of the calendar is over, which started roughly around the end of Y2K. Interesting, eh? Now, the next cycle, which is the universal cycle, we use to the power of -1. And when you do the calculation, you're going to come up with 0.65 as your answer, which means I times that by 365, which are the amount of days in a year, and that comes up with 237 days. So when this cycle comes to a completion, it'll mean we have about 230 some odd days left, depending on that number 20, which is correct, to the ascension point. The -2, which to me is going to be the understanding age, the age where we understand things very well, 13 times 20 to the power of -2, you're going to get the answer 0.0325. That's how many years will be left before this happens, and it's much less than a year. In fact, when you times it by the 365, you're going to get 11.8 days. So at this point, things are going to be going really fast. David Wilcox has said in his 2012 Enigma video that things used to happen every month, or before every year, then every month, then every week, then every day, then multiple times a day, then every minute, then multiple times a minute. This is why, because of this math here, more and more happens in less and less time. So the cycle of -3 would work out that a new cycle will begin approximately around 14.2 hours, which is 13 times 20 to the power of -3. And that comes up to 0.01625. Times that by 365 days, I get 0.59. Then I times that by 24 hours, and that comes up to 14.23. -4, which is the 12th cycle of the calendar, will mean we have 42 minutes until the ascension period. Now, what these cycles mean at this point, all I can say is a lot, very powerful, and very close to the ascensionary period. And this one would be 42 minutes before we go into the final cycle before infinity. This cycle is 13 times 20 to the power of -5. And it comes up to the point of about 2¼ minutes. So it might feel like this is an infinite moment, and this is going to be a very powerful cycle, because the amount of stuff that happens during the first decade of our current one into 2011 and even 2012 will happen in less than 2½ minutes. Or less than 2¼ minutes if you want to get technical, which means, wow, it's going to be extremely phenomenal at this time. But when this cycle ends, the 13th cycle will be done, and you take 13 times 20 to the power of -6, and you put that into seconds, timesing it by 365, timesing it by 24 hours, timesing it by 60 minutes, and then multiplying it again by 60 seconds, you're going to get 6.4 seconds, which is definitely not 13. But the reason why I say 13 is the law of polarity and my belief that the Mayan calendar resets itself after this infinite point is done. So I take 6.4, times it by 2, I get 12.8, which is pretty much 13, giving me 13 seconds of infinity, because we go from -6 of the exponent for where we are in the cycle, then we go -7, -8, that minus will go on to infinity. But at this point there, we're talking milliseconds that there's no way humanity is going to understand it, and therefore will we be living in an infinite period of 13 seconds. And then I think after that, we will then do the same 13 cycles that we have done from the Big Bang Theory until that infinite period, and then redo it. So the last one, which was about, we had like a 2¼ minute cycle, that should happen again, followed by another 40-minute cycle, followed by another 13¾ hour cycle, followed by another what do we got here, 11-day cycle, and so on as far as the polarity is concerned, meaning that the very end of this should be the end of the universe in roughly around 15 or 16 billion years from now. And then what happens after the death of the universe, I don't know. We got a lot of time to figure that out. So then, this is where I come up with the math. Mainly what I do is I take the 0-point reference and subtract it to where we are today, or to a given period in which I'm looking at the data from. That's how I'm able to find out the halfway, or all the Fibonacci retracements of different cycles. And you know what, that's pretty much that. If you have any questions, please email me here on YouTube or on endlessmountain2008@yahoo.ca. Thank you for watching, everybody, and have yourself a magnificent day. Bye-bye.